Hello everybody and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn and in this video I'm going to do some writing feedback. We have another IELTS academic writing task 2 essay and we start as always by reading the question, analysing the question and thinking a little bit about our structure. So what is our question first of all? Let's just analyse this question and make sure that we understand exactly what we need to do. So nowadays, in today's world, nowadays, present time, more and more people are studying at university. So this is the anchor. This is the statement of fact. That's not the thing that we argue about or disagree with or agree with. That's the anchor. More and more people are studying at university. So what is the discursive part of this? What is the debatable thing that we can discuss? Is this a positive or a negative development? Cool. Good thing or bad thing? More and more people are studying at university. So we already assume that there are some good things and there are some bad things. This one is not, what are the advantages and disadvantages of this? This is not, discuss both sides and give your own opinion. This is a one-sided essay. Is this a positive or negative development? And the easiest way to approach this is simply to, first of all, pick your position. Do you believe that it's a positive development or a negative development? In our introduction, I like to have a nice background statement, a nice background sentence as an opening, something connected to studying, something connected to universities. In many countries, university education is something that many employers look for or something. As a result of this, universities are seeing more and more students applying to enroll. Reference to the question, right? Or reference to this main idea. Nowadays, more and more people are studying at university. And then, because you need to take a side here, this is a one-sided essay, you have to state your position in the introduction. It's no good if you don't state your position in the introduction, because we have to say our position and we have to then support that throughout the essay. Especially important in these one-sided essays. So I really want to see that in the introduction. I want to clearly see if the candidate thinks this is a positive or negative development. I don't want to see something like, well, there are both negative and positive developments, and I will discuss those. I want to know in the introduction if you think this is a positive or a negative development. I need to know that. So if you think it's a positive development, body paragraph 1 will be the first reason why it's positive, and then some explanation. The second body paragraph will be your second reason why you think it's positive, and then an explanation. And then in your conclusion, we want just to summarize those two key ideas you have, and then maybe end with a nice reflective comment, advice for governments or universities or students or people, or maybe something a little bit opinionated towards the end is absolutely fine. I like those reflective comments to end essays. I think it looks really good. Anyway, let's see what our candidate has for us. We're looking for four paragraphs, 2 body paragraphs. We want the body paragraphs to be longer than the introduction and the conclusion. So looking at this, we do see 4 paragraphs in total. One thing that's just stood out is this word eventually to start the conclusion. In conclusion is fine for every essay. And one other thing, while the body paragraphs are larger than the introduction and the conclusion, I don't like the fact that introduction is quite long. The body paragraph is where all of our argumentation is going to be. Introduction and conclusion should be short, but okay, not a big deal. Balance looks, fairly good. But okay, let's have a look what the candidate has written for us, and we'll look at everything in closer detail. So let's just zoom in. Maybe I'll zoom in a little bit like that. That's fine, isn't it? So, okay, let's get my, how do I feel today? Let's get my blue pen out. That's fine. More and more people are going to university these days. Okay, it feels like a very blunt paraphrase. Nowadays, more and more people are studying at university. More and more people are going to university these days. Okay. And it has raised the question of whether that's actually a good thing. Okay, this doesn't feel very academic, right? Firstly, we don't use contractions in academic writing. So instead of that's, we should say that is. And I think this probably works better than that. And actually, I don't know about the use of actually here. Sometimes actually in academic writing is fine. But I actually feels a bit conversational, and this has raised the question of whether it's a good thing or not. But okay, let's keep going. Although some people worry that it could make the job market. Okay, are we talking about some reasons why some people think it's a negative? Don't think we need to do that. But okay. Good use of although. Although some people worry that it could make the job, it's slightly ambiguous. I mean, the increasing number of university enrollments. Not sure about this yet. Although some people worry that it could make the job market even more competitive, or that degrees might not be as valuable, I still think it. So again, we have this contraction. We don't use it's in academic writing. We use it is. Some still think that it's an important and positive shift. Okay. So you're balancing, you're telling me what other people think. Oh no, you're telling me what you think. I think it's still an important and positive shift. Change is probably better than shift. Yeah, I don't like this use of shift, especially when we look at how it can push individuals and societies to improve in the long run. Okay, so one thing the candidate's done, and I'm not going to say that it's absolutely wrong to do this, I just personally don't think it's a great idea. The candidate has started discussing arguments in the introduction. And I don't want to see arguments in the introduction. I want to see arguments put forward and supported in the body paragraphs. I want to see positions stated in the introduction, but I want to see arguments put forward and developed in the body paragraph. So for me, it's a little bit strange, but if we want to be coherent here, and if we want to have our work logically organized, what we can see, the candidate's position is that it's a good thing. Fine. And what we would expect to see in body paragraph 1, how studying at university can push individuals. And then body paragraph 2, how people studying at universities improves societies. So the way that the introduction is set up, those should be your 2 body paragraphs. Let's see if that's what you do. Okay, one of the biggest advantages of having more students enrolling in university is that it sparks, a type of positive fear that makes students want to stand out. Okay, I think I get your point. But this is a complex idea, and you certainly don't need complex ideas. Complex ideas are great when you're actually at university, because usually you have like a couple of thousand words to explain those complex ideas. This is an IELTS academic writing essay, and so complex ideas in 250 words, it's just a bad idea. You're just landing yourself, you're just creating like more obstacles and more unnecessary difficulties for you. So, one of the biggest advantages, it's a good thing that when people study at university, it sparks a type of positive fear. So now I'm thinking, can you explain what that positive fear is and make students want to stand out? Okay, so now I want you to explain a few things. What is positive fear? What does it mean for students to want to stand out? Thirdly, how does positive fear make students want to stand out? And fourthly, why is it a good thing that students want to stand out? So just with this just with this topic sentence, this complex topic sentence, I now want 4 things from you, and I don't think you have the words. I don't think if you have a 2,000-word essay, you can probably do this, but you're not going to be able to do this in 250 words. So for me, this idea is far too complex. When a student, sorry, we're going to have an explanation, I hope. When a student starts to realize that there are thousands and thousands of other students graduating with the same degree as him, students are them, not. Oh, sorry. When a student, so a student is actually them, not him. Because in the English speaking world, if we don't know if someone is male or female, we use they, them. This isn't part of the transgender culture wars thing. This is just a part of our language. We use they, them when we're not sure if somebody is male or female. And when we talk about students, students can be male or female. But okay, let's see if I can make sense of this. I have to reread this again because immediately it's not clear because the idea is complex. When a student starts to realize that there are thousands and thousands of other students graduating with the same degree as them, we're talking about people who go to university. So those should be the focus. Why would these people have degrees? Okay, it instinctively makes him them. It instinctively makes them want to do more than just what their degree offers, whether it is taking extra programs, courses, or simply gaining hands-on experience while they study. So we have to be careful with that non-gender neutral pronoun. You're using male pronouns, and there are some books, usually, so if you read an academic book, usually in the introduction, the author will say something about the type of pronouns that they've chosen to justify why they've chosen, like him, her, or them. But without this justification, stick to they, them. It's much safer. Some examiners might think nothing of it, but I think most examiners in 2025 will see this as being, a lack of knowledge of style. Of academic style. Okay, even though this might result in temporary extra stress for the student, it will ultimately be better for their future. So, grammatically, we're very strong here, right? Very few mistakes. In fact, no grammatical mistakes. We have a complexity of sentence types, of structures. We get some nice flexibility with although and even though, with those cohesive devices for contrast. Cool. Nice language too, like stand out and sparks in terms of vocab. So we're very good with vocab. We're very good with grammar. However, passing this basic test of could I walk away after reading this once? Could I explain this candidate's position to my friend, to a hypothetical person that just walked in? And I think I get the point. There is certainly underlying coherence, or certainly I can work out what the candidate means. The candidate means, because so many people are studying at university, this kind of equalizes most people. So everyone has a degree, and because everyone's equal, because everyone has a degree, in order to become better, to become more special, it forces people to do other stuff like extra programs, extra courses, or getting experience. So people look for that extra thing to make them special. You haven't really explained why that's a good thing, though. And I don't know. We really want to have that focus on why it's a good thing that students want to stand out. And I don't really feel like you've done that, unfortunately. And that's just the result of having a super complex idea to start with. So now we should get, and this doesn't, I mean, it kind of matches to that pushing individuals, right? This paragraph kind of links fairly nicely to this pushing individuals. And so I would expect to see in body paragraph 2 something about how this benefits societies. And cool, we start with on a bigger scale, which sounds like it's societies. Cool. On a bigger scale, having more well-educated people will benefit the society as a whole. Cool, but you've already mentioned that. So maybe make your argument earlier. On a societal level, more people studying at university is positive because blah, and put your argument there in that first sentence and then spend the rest of the paragraph explaining it. But okay, when a society has more educated people, there is a higher chance of having new ideas, technologies, and inventions. So I'm thinking immediately, well, okay, give examples and prove how more people studying results in new ideas, technologies, and inventions. For example, cool, America is a country that has witnessed nice use of present perfect, good stuff, an increased nice use of nominalization, using increase as a noun. It's very common. Nominalization is where we turn verbs into nouns, and it's a common feature of academic writing. An increase in the level of educated. We have a little typo here. You should find your own typos in the level of educated people, comma, which explains why it's, okay, we have that contraction again. It's having new innovations. I don't know, but it's having, I think there are, which explains why there are so many new inventions. Maybe is better than it is having in different areas such as health and technology, full stop. So even if, I like this use of even if the competition increases, the benefits go far beyond, nice far beyond just finding a job. It shapes, nice use of the semicolon, it shapes how fast a country is moving forward. So again, language is very, very strong. I'm just not fully satisfied with the idea. I don't feel satiated. Like when I'm hungry, I eat food and then I'm satisfied. Now I want to know how having more educated people benefits the society. And I get the idea that, it creates people who make new ideas, technology, and inventions, but I don't think it's like amazingly well supported. It's on topic, it's reasonably well supported, but yeah, just a little bit lacking in its support. I don't know. Candidates just said, well, America has an increase in educated people, and that explains why it has new innovations. Health and technology. Okay, the idea is clear, but I don't find it academically persuasive that you've convinced me that, more and more people going to university will result in better innovation. I agree that it does. Yeah, but I just don't think it's perfectly explained in that paragraph. It's not bad. It's on topic, just not very academically persuasive. Then finally, eventually, yeah, I don't like this eventually. In conclusion, or just in conclusion, make everyone's life easy. Eventually, the rise in the number of people attending university can easily be seen as a positive shift. Not sure what this first sentence is. Eventually, the rise in the number of people attending. Love this number of people attending. This is what we call a reduced relative clause because it's like number of people who are attending. We are omitting relative pronoun who and the auxiliary verb be, who are attending, people attending, good stuff, can easily be seen as a positive shift, positive change, probably. Despite all the challenges it brings, I mean, you haven't really mentioned challenges, have you? And we don't really need to mention that. You mentioned a couple of negatives in the first thing, but we really want to summarize your main ideas in the conclusion. And you haven't spoken about the challenges in the body paragraph. So this kind of feels unnecessary. This shift will mostly drive individuals and societies to push beyond their limits. Okay, that's a summary of your main ideas, comma, which will lead to more good things happening down the road. Okay, happening down the road, it's okay for academic language, I guess. Not the most academic, in the long run or long term might be a little bit better, but happening down the road is kind of idiomatic and nice, but it feels just slightly conversational. So, overall, a solid piece of writing. The candidate's language skills are great, right? Candidate has really good grammar, really good vocab. The balance and the shape of the essay looks okay. Lots of good cohesive devices. However, the problematic thing is that I have to reread many parts of the essay because I don't quite get some of the ideas, and some of the ideas are kind of complicated, and that makes it not the most easily readable writing. And I'm not convinced that the topic has been developed fully. It's not bad, but not fully. So just looking at this in terms of task response, I want to just look at the 7 and then the 6. The main parts of the prompt are appropriately addressed. Yep, you've spoken about the benefits. A clear and developed position is presented. Yeah, it's clear that you think it's a good idea. Main ideas are extended and supported, but there may be a tendency to overgeneralize, or there may be a lack of focus and precision in supporting ideas or material. And I feel like that is fair. I think probably you are better than the 6. You do have a clear position. You do make arguments. It's just that the development and the supporting arguments just feel not massively persuasive. Okay, looking at coherence and cohesion, let's check the 7 and then the 8. So information ideas are logically organized, yes. A clear progression throughout, yes. A few lapses may occur. Certainly there are a few lapses in the logical organizing, maybe. Just with like, why is some stuff in the introduction? You don't really need that in the introduction. And then in the conclusion, you mentioned some of the challenges that it brings. So maybe that kind of feels like a lapse. It feels like a lapse in content, but also it could be a lapse in the logical organizing of the work. Range of cohesive devices, absolutely. Reference and substitution, yeah, but with some inaccuracies. I do think some of those it and this or that, some of those were just slightly inaccurate. Paragraph is generally used effectively, yes. Enough for the 8. Message can be followed with ease. For me, message can be followed with ease. Because of the complexity of the ideas, I can't say that the message can be followed with ease. And so for that reason, yeah, I'm going with 7 instead of the 8. And again, that's another reason why I don't recommend using overly complex ideas, because that thing, the message can be followed with ease. It's much more difficult to do that if you're using complicated ideas. In terms of grammar and vocab, I think solid 8 for both of them. I don't feel like really nice range of structures. The accuracy is certainly at a band 9. I don't know if we have full... Oh, there could be a problem with lexical resource too, and I'm going to point to that in just a moment. Maybe the grammar is a 9, actually. Let's just take a look. I just want to take a quick look. So accuracy of grammar is certainly a 9. I don't think we have any mistakes at all, apart from maybe this versus that. It's more of a vocab thing, and even maybe a cohesion thing. Yeah, I think for the grammatical range and accuracy, I think we do have a 9 here. Yeah, there's a lovely range of structures, lovely range of sentence types. We start sentences with gerunds. We get, accurate present perfect. We get some present continuous. We get some conditional mood here. Go far beyond, nice. Drive somebody to do something. Yeah, I'm comfortable awarding the 9 for grammatical range and accuracy for this piece. But the vocab... Maybe. The candidate's vocab is certainly at a 9, but notice this awareness of style and collocation. And I don't know. I certainly wouldn't award it less than a 7. But for me, the lack of academic style is a problem. And I don't really want to award... A tricky one. I do think there's enough good vocab in there for an 8. But maybe I felt just slightly generous giving the 9 for grammatical range and accuracy. So maybe I'll be slightly harsher with lexical resource. Yeah. Tricky one, but I am going to go with a 7 for lexical resource. But the candidate definitely has potential to get an 8, possibly even 9 in lexical resource. Again, just some of the choices were just not very academic, especially with those contractions. I know that's a bit of a grammar thing, but The only thing really in the band descriptors that talks about style is in the lexical resource part. So that's, yeah, when I notice like a lack of academic style, then I go more towards lexical resource than grammar. But okay, overall, a very, very, very decent attempt. And overall task response, I'm awarding 7, coherence and cohesion, 7, lexical resource, 7, grammatical range and accuracy, 9. Comments for the candidate. For task response, pick simpler ideas. They are easier to explain and they are easier to support and develop. Coherence and cohesion, pick simpler ideas, because if the message cannot be understood with ease, then you're not going to get that band 8 or higher. Lexical resource, just make sure that you're familiar with the conventions of academic writing. You know, we tend not to use so many phrasal verbs, and we don't use contractions, and that's he, him, they, them stuff that's really, possibly going to hold you back. But grammar, incredible, well done. So overall, this gives the candidate a score of, let's just work this out. So 7778 would be 7.25, which means 7779 will be a 7.5 overall. Middle of C1. I think that's fair. Middle of C1, the candidate's English is clearly higher than middle of C1. The candidate should certainly be aiming for 8.0 or 8.5 with a little bit of work of just, writing essays and getting some meaningful feedback and making small improvements. I fully expect the candidate to get 8.0, 8.5 in the actual test. But yeah, good job. Well done. A decent, very decent competitive bit of writing. Let me know what you think. Are my marks too generous? Are my marks too harsh? And if you'd like me to check your IELTS writing tasks, or if you'd like a free practice speaking test with feedback, then I collect my candidates from 2 places, on Telegram and Facebook. Links to both of those groups are given in the description. Candidates are always selected at random there for the free ones. If you'd prefer to pay for a speaking test or a writing check, then a full price list is available on my website, expertexaminer.com, and again, a link to that is given in the description. More videos from me coming soon, but for now, bye-bye.